We divided the estate, Mom said, voice flat like a freezer door. Your sister gets the apartments. I slid the papers across the table. Then explain why the 2019 deed says something else. The kitchen felt too bright. The overhead light buzzed like a trapped fly. My sister, Kelsey, had a little smile on her face like she'd already won. Her nails were fresh, shiny pink, tapping the wood in a slow, cocky rhythm. Mom didn't even look at me at first. She stared at the papers like they were dirty. You can't do this, she said, calm but sharp. You don't get to rewrite my life. I kept my hands on the table so they wouldn't shake. My palms were sweaty anyway. The paper edges stuck to my skin. Kelsey leaned in and snatched the top page. What is this? She read fast, lips moving, then her face changed. Like a mask cracking, Mom reached for it. Kelsey yanked it away, suddenly greedy and scared at the same time. They both read the line that mattered, the one I'd circled with a black pen so thick it looked angry. The owner's name. Their eyes snapped up at me. Then Mom screamed. Like a raw, ugly sound that didn't belong in a clean kitchen with white cabinets and vanilla candles. Kelsey screamed too, right after her, like an echo. The two of them together sounded like something breaking. No, Kelsey shouted. No, 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 this is fake. Mom stood so hard her chair scraped the tile. You think you're clever, she hissed. You think you can embarrass me in my own house? I didn't move, I didn't blink, I just watched them. Because this wasn't a surprise to me, not anymore. Kelsey's hand shook as she flipped the page like she'd find a hidden switch that made it all go away. This is Mom's property, she snapped. Dad he wouldn't do this. Dad did, I said, my voice sounded calm, which shocked even me. In 2019, same year he stopped letting you help with his paperwork. Mom's face went tight. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. That's when I saw it just for a second, panic behind the anger, not sadness, not grief, panic. The candle on the counter smelled like fake sugar. The scent made my stomach turn. Kelsey threw the papers down like they burned. So what, you just kept this? She said. You hid it. I tapped the circle on the deed. I didn't hide it. It was recorded. It's been sitting there the whole time. You just never thought to check because you never thought you could lose. Mom's eyes flashed. Watch your mouth. Or what? I said, quiet. You'll ground me. Kelsey made this little choking laugh. You're not taking the apartments, she said. You don't even know what you're doing. You're being petty because you didn't get enough attention. That hit a nerve because it was the exact kind of thing she always said. Like every problem in my life was just me being dramatic. Like my pain was a hobby. I leaned forward. You want to talk about attention? I said. Tell me why you two were already dividing things before Dad was even buried. Mom's jaw twitched. It was tiny, almost nothing, but I caught it. Kelsey's phone lit up on the table, screen facing up. A notification popped, listing photos ready. I saw it clear as day. For half a second, the room went silent in my head. So that's what this was, not grief, not family, not what Dad would have wanted. A plan. Mom followed my eyes to the phone. She slapped her hand over it fast, too fast, like that would erase what I saw. Don't you look at her phone, she snapped. Kelsey snatched it and shoved it in her pocket. It's nothing, but her cheeks were red now, not from crying, from getting caught. I stared at them both. You were going to sell, I said. It wasn't a question. Mom lifted her chin. We were going to manage assets responsibly, she said, like she was reading a line off a script. Someone has to be the adult. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Funny, I said. Because Dad picked me? Kelsey's eyes went watery, but I knew her. Those weren't sad tears. Those were weapon tears. Mom, she cried, she's trying to steal from us. Mom turned on me like a switch flipped. After everything I've done for you, she said, voice shaking now, this is how you repay me. There it was, the old trick, make me the villain, make me feel dirty, make me back down. A few years ago, it would have worked. But Dad had left me more than property, he'd left me proof, and he'd left me a reason to stop being nice. I stood up slow, chair legs scraping. Keep the tears, I said. I'm not here for a fair fight. Mom's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? I looked her right in the face. It means you should have been kinder to me while you still had the chance. And the way Mom swallowed quick, nervous, told me she finally understood one thing: I wasn't begging anymore. I was starting something. Dad didn't get sick all at once. It was more like the light in him kept dimming week by week until the house felt colder even in summer. At first, he still tried to act normal. He'd sit on the couch with the TV on low, pretending he was watching the game, but his eyes would drift like he was somewhere else. When he thought nobody was looking, he'd press 2 fingers to his chest and breathe slow through his nose like he was counting pain down. Mom didn't do comfort, she did control. "Stop babying him," she'd snap if I brought him tea. "He's not dying today." Kelsey would sweep in like a selfie, all perfume and fake concern. "Daddy, you okay?" she'd say, voice sweet. Then she'd glance at Mom like, "Did you see me? I did my part." 10 minutes later she'd be gone again, so it was me. It was always me. I'd help Dad up the stairs when his legs went weak. I'd wash dishes with my sleeves pushed up, hands raw from hot water because Mom liked to save money but never cut back on her own stuff. I'd sit with Dad at night when he couldn't sleep, just the two of us and the hum of the fridge and the distant sound of Kelsey laughing on the phone in her room. That's the thing people don't tell you. Sickness changes the air. It makes everything feel louder. Every door slam, every whispered talk that stops the second you walk in, every family meeting you're not invited to. The apartments were the biggest thing Dad owned. 4 units on the east side, nothing fancy but clean. Brick building, old trees out front, long hallway that smelled like laundry soap and cooking oil. Dad loved that place. He used to say, "It ain't glamorous, but it feeds people, it feeds us too." He also used to say, "Never trust folks who get excited when you're weak." I didn't get what he meant back then, I do now. When his health got worse, Mom started acting like the apartments were already hers. She'd talk to tenants like she owned the building. She'd make little comments at dinner like, "We might raise rent. People will pay if they have to." Dad would stare at his plate and say nothing, jaw tight. Kelsey got worse too. She started calling the apartments my future like she'd already moved in. One night I heard them in the laundry room. I wasn't trying to spy, I was just walking down the hall half asleep and I caught Mom's voice through the cracked door. "Don't be stupid," Mom said. "He'll sign if we push the right way." Kelsey laughed soft. "And if he doesn't?" Mom paused, then she said, calm as ice, "Then we do it without him." My stomach dropped so hard it felt like a punch. I backed away, quiet, heart beating loud in my ears. I remember my hand on the wall. The paint felt rough, like sandpaper. I stood there holding my breath thinking, did she really just say that? The next day, Dad asked me to sit with him on the back porch. The air smelled like cut grass and cigarette smoke from a neighbor. Dad's hands shook as he lit his coffee mug with both palms like the warmth mattered. "You been hearing things?" he asked. I didn't want to lie, so I didn't. His eyes didn't widen, he didn't look shocked, he just looked tired. Like he'd been carrying that fear alone and now he didn't have to. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small brass key. "This is for my lockbox," he said. "Under my desk, don't tell nobody." "Dad," he raised a finger. "Listen. I'm still here, all right, but I'm not dumb and I'm not leaving you empty-handed." My throat got tight. "Why me?" He looked at the house, at the kitchen window where Mom's shadow moved back and forth. "Because you're the only one who shows up when it ain't fun." A week later, Mom cleaned Dad's office while he was at a doctor appointment. She acted all proud, like she did him a favor. But when Dad got home, he sat at his desk, stared at the drawers, and I saw his face go stone. That night, he whispered to me, "They're moving papers." I didn't sleep. I kept hearing Mom's voice, "Then we do it without him." The next morning, I used the brass key. I opened the lockbox under Dad's desk, and inside, tucked under an old envelope, was a thin folder with one date written on the tab in Dad's handwriting, 2019. At the bottom of the folder was a USB drive with a piece of tape on it. On the tape, Dad had written 3 words, "If I'm gone." The lockbox smelled like old pennies and dust. The metal was cold on my fingers. I pulled the folder out first, slow, like it might bite. Inside were copies of papers I'd never seen on the kitchen table, not the family binder Mom loved to wave around. These were clean, stamped, and sharp. The kind of papers people hide when they're about to do something shady. Then I picked up the USB drive. It felt too small to hold anything that heavy. I waited until everyone was asleep. The house had that late-night quiet where you can hear the fridge click on and the pipes make little popping sounds in the walls. My room smelled like laundry soap and the cheap vanilla candle Mom always burned like it could fix our lives. I plugged the USB into my old laptop. A single folder popped up. The folder name was "Ray, Do Not Trust Them." My throat went tight again. Inside were 3 things: a scanned copy of the 2019 deed, a video file, a short note typed out plain and blunt. I opened the note first. It said, "If they act shocked, it's fake shock. They knew. They've been trying to move the apartment since 2019. If I'm too sick to fight, you fight smart. Don't argue, don't warn them, just watch." My eyes burned, not from sadness, from heat, from anger. I clicked the scan deed. The owner name was right there, real, clear, stamped and recorded. And the worst part? It wasn't just me. It showed Dad and me tied to it, like he built a fence around it with his own hands. I sat back, breathing slow, my heart felt loud in my ears. Outside my window, a car passed on the street and the headlights slid across my wall like a ghost. Then I clicked the video. At first it was dark and shaky, like someone had hidden a phone under papers. I turned the volume up a little. Mom's voice came through, crisp and nasty. "We can't wait," she said. "He's getting worse. If he dies before we fix this, it'll be a mess." Kelsey answered, sweet and stupid. "So we just make him sign." Mom made a sound like a laugh, but colder. "He'll sign. He won't even know what he's signing if we time it right." My stomach turned hard. I felt like I might throw up right there on my bed. Kelsey whispered, "What if she finds out?" Mom said, sharp, "She won't, and if she does, we make her look crazy, like always." I stared at the screen, hands locked around the laptop edge. My fingers went numb. This wasn't family drama, this was a hunt. I didn't sleep after that. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying their voices in my head. The way Mom said, "like always." Like breaking me was a normal chore. By morning, my whole body felt wired. I moved through the house quiet, watching them like they were strangers wearing my family's faces. And once I started watching, the small tells hit me everywhere. Mom's cleaning wasn't cleaning. It was searching. She started spending more time in Dad's office organizing, but she'd come out with dry ink on her fingertips like she'd been handling fresh papers. She began locking the office door. That door was never locked before. Ever, Kelsey got jumpy. Her phone was always face down now. She'd step outside to take calls, then come back smiling too wide like she'd just swallowed a secret. At dinner, Mom started using new words. Assets, transition, we need to streamline, like she was practicing a speech in her head. And Dad was suddenly careful in a way that scared me. He stopped leaving his meds on the counter. He stopped eating anything Mom handed him first. He'd look at his plate, then at her, like he was doing math. One afternoon, I walked past the hall closet and caught a smell I didn't expect. Printer ink, strong, fresh. Like a brand new cartridge. Mom didn't buy new ink for home stuff. She'd rather die. I opened the closet when nobody was looking. Inside was a small printer I'd never seen before, still in the box foam. And beside it, tucked behind paper towels, was a little metal stamp case. Notary stamp case. My pulse jumped. I didn't touch it, I just stared because I didn't want my fingerprints on their lies. That night, I heard Mom whispering in the kitchen again. I stood at the top of the stairs, holding the railing so tight my knuckles went white. Mom said, "Tomorrow, when he's tired." Kelsey said, "And if he asks questions," Mom's voice stayed calm. "Then you cry, I'll get angry, we'll make it loud, confuse him, he hates conflict, he'll sign just to make it stop." I stepped back before the stairs creaked. In my room, I pulled the USB out and held it like it was a knife. Dad had left me proof, yeah, but now I had something else too, a front row seat to how far they were willing to go, and I realized something that made my skin go cold. They weren't scared of losing, they were scared of me waking up. I didn't confront Mom right away, not because I was scared, because I wanted to see how bold she'd get when she thought I was asleep at the wheel. But 2 days later, I caught her coming out of Dad's office with a folder tucked tight under her arm. She froze when she saw me, like a kid caught stealing candy. "What's that?" I asked, plain. Mom's face didn't even flinch. "Paperwork," she said. "Adult stuff." I stepped closer. The folder edge was creased like it had been opened and shut a dozen times. "Adult stuff," I repeated. "Or my stuff." Her eyes flashed. "Don't start with me." I held my hand out. "Give it." Mom laughed once, sharp. "Who do you think you are?" The air smelled like lemon cleaner and something burnt from the toaster. My heartbeat felt steady, too steady, like my body had already decided we were past fear. "I'm the one who's been wiping Dad's mouth when he can't hold a cup," I said. "So yeah, give it." Mom's mouth tightened. She hugged the folder closer. "You've been watching me," she said, like I was the criminal. "Because you've been moving things," I shot back. Kelsey appeared in the hallway like she'd been waiting for her cue, hair perfect, hoodie hanging off one shoulder, innocent face loaded and ready. "What's going on?" she asked, all sweet. Mom turned to her fast. "She's accusing me," Mom said, loud enough that Dad could hear from the living room. "That was the point. Make it loud, make it messy, make me look unstable." Kelsey stared at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. "Again?" she sighed. "Girl, you need help." I almost laughed. It was so predictable I could have mouthed their words with them. I leaned in, voice low. "Kelsey, I saw the notary stamp case." Kelsey blinked just once, tiny pause. Then she smiled, wide and fake. "A notary stamp," she said. "In this house, please, you're spiraling." Mom stepped forward, eyes hard. "Stop saying crazy things." I stared at Mom. "Then explain the printer ink smell in the closet." Mom's eyebrows lifted like she was offended by how dumb I sounded. "Printer ink," she repeated. "You're sniffing closets now." Kelsey let out a laugh, too loud, too fast. "That's wild," she said. "You're literally making stuff up." Their faces were smooth, but their bodies told the truth. Mom's fingers tightened around the folder. Kelsey's hand went to her pocket like she was checking her phone, like she needed backup. I didn't reach for the folder again. I did something worse. I pulled my laptop from the dining table and turned the screen toward them. On it was a still image from the video, Mom's face in the kitchen light, mouth twisted, eyes sharp. Not tired wife, not worried mom, just pure intent. Under the image, I had typed one sentence in big letters: "He won't know what he's signing." The room went dead quiet for one beat, then Mom snapped. She slapped the laptop lid down so hard it made a loud crack. "You do not bring that garbage into my home," she yelled. Kelsey's eyes filled with tears on command, like she had a tap in her skull. "Mom," she whispered, trembling, "she's trying to destroy us." Mom pointed at me like I was a stranger who broke in. "You're sick," she said. "You're jealous, you always have been. You can't stand that Kelsey is loved." That one hit where it always hit. Deep, old. Kelsey sniffed, wiping her cheek like a little angel. "I've been nothing but nice to you," she said, voice shaking. "Why are you doing this?" I looked at her tears and felt nothing. No guilt, no softness, just a cold, clean click in my head, because it wasn't about truth for them. It was about control. Dad's cough sounded from the living room, weak. Small, like a warning bell. Mom's voice dropped into that reasonable tone she used when she wanted to sound sane. "Sweetheart," she said, like she was talking to a child, "your father is sick, you're stressed. You're seeing things." I stepped back and opened the laptop again, calm. "So you're saying it's fake?" Mom nodded fast. "Yes." Kelsey nodded too, like a bobblehead. "Obviously." I held up the USB drive between two fingers. "Dad labeled it," I said, in his own words. Mom's eyes flicked to Dad's direction, then back to me. "He didn't label anything," she snapped. "You're lying." That's when I knew right there that they were willing to rewrite reality in front of my face. No shame, no hesitation. I walked to the living room and knelt by Dad's chair. His skin looked gray under the lamp. His eyes were tired, but they found mine. "Dad," I said, soft, "did you make that USB?" He looked at Mom and Kelsey standing behind me, then back at me. He gave a tiny nod. Mom's breath caught. Kelsey's tears stopped midstream for half a second, then Mom jumped in fast, like she could patch it. "Ray," she said, voice gentle and pleading, "you don't know what she's talking about. You're confused, you've been taking medication." Dad's eyes narrowed a little. He opened his mouth, but his throat worked like it hurt. Mom stepped closer, smiling like a nurse. "Baby, go rest," she said. "Let me handle this." And Dad, because he hated conflict, because he was weak, because he didn't have the energy to fight in his own home, he leaned back. He let her handle it. Mom turned to me with that same smooth smile. "See," she said, "he's tired, you're upsetting him." Kelsey sniffed and whispered, "You're literally killing him with stress." I stood up slow. I didn't argue, I didn't yell, I just stared at them like I was memorizing their faces for later. "Okay," I said, "you win." Mom's shoulders relaxed a little, like she'd just put a leash back on me. "Good," she said. Finally, I walked past them, back to my room, calm as a locked door. And when my bedroom clicked shut, I didn't cry, I smiled. Because they thought they'd gaslit me back into my cage. What they didn't know was this: I wasn't backing down, I was switching tactics, and I already had my first move. After that night, I started acting small. I made coffee, I cleaned the counter, I nodded when Mom talked like she owned the whole world. I even apologized once, soft, fake, perfect. The kind of sorry that makes mean people relax. Mom ate it up. There you go, she said, patting my shoulder like I was a dog that finally learned. Her palm felt warm, but it made my skin crawl. Kelsey smirked at me across the table. Told you she'd come back down, she said, like I was a toy she put back on the shelf. I just smiled. Yeah, I said, I was being dramatic. Inside, something in me stayed cold and steady. Because while they thought I was folding, I was watching. Every sound, every habit, every little slip, and they slipped fast when they thought they were safe. 2 mornings later, Mom left her phone on the charger by the sink while she went to check on Dad. The screen lit up with a message preview. Realtor, we can list the units quietly, no need to involve everyone. My stomach didn't even drop this time. I was past shock, it just felt like confirmation. I didn't touch her phone, I didn't need to. I already had my help lined up. His name was Darnell, Dad's old property guy. Big hands, calm voice, always smelled like motor oil and peppermint gum. He used to fix the broken stair rails at the apartments and tell tenants, Ray, don't play about safety. He also didn't like my mom. Not openly, he was too smart for that, but he'd look at her like he could see through her. I texted him from the backyard where Mom couldn't hear. Me, you got 5 minutes today, Darnell, for you? Yeah, same spot. That same spot was the little hardware store parking lot near the apartments. Dad used to meet Darnell there to go over repairs, like a ritual. When I got there, the air was cold and smelled like wet cement. Darnell leaned on his truck with a coffee in one hand, eyes scanning me like he was checking for bruises. You all right? He asked. I shrugged. I'm breathing. He nodded like that told him enough. Talk? I handed him a copy of the 2019 deed. His eyes moved slow across the page. When he hit the owner name, his jaw tightened. So Ray did it, he said quietly. Yeah, I said. And Mom's acting like it doesn't exist. Darnell let out a low breath through his nose. She been calling people, he said. Not me, skipping me. My ears perked up. Calling who? He looked at me hard. A realtor, a maintenance crew. A guy who does lock changes. She asked him how fast he can swap keys without tenants noticing. A chill ran up my back. So she's been planning, I said. She's been moving, Darnell corrected. Planning is polite. He took a sip of coffee and looked past me at the street. Ray told me once, he said, if anything gets weird, I'm supposed to listen to you, not them. I swallowed. Then I need you, I said, but not loud. Not now, Darnell's eyes narrowed. What you thinking? I kept it simple. I want them to think they're winning, I said. I want them to get comfortable, then I want them to show their real face in front of people who matter to them. He didn't ask who. He already knew the type, the kind of people Mom performs for. Darnell nodded once. Okay, he said, I can help. I got records too. Records? I asked. He reached into his truck and pulled out a worn notebook. Inside were dates, unit numbers, tenant names, and payments written in his thick, neat handwriting. Ray didn't trust online stuff, Darnell said. He trusted paper. This is everything. Repairs, rent, who paid, who didn't, who tried to pull stunts. He flipped to one page and tapped it, a note from last year. Kelsey asked for master keys, told her no. She got mad. My mouth went dry. She tried to get keys, Darnell nodded. Said Mom told her to. I stared at the notebook like it was a window into their real lives. So they've been trying to break in, I whispered. Yeah, Darnell said. And one more thing, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. Last month, your mom came by the building. She told a tenant to start paying her cash, said it was easier. Tenant called me right after, confused. My hands curled into fists in my jacket pockets. Cash meant no trail, cash meant hiding. Who was the tenant? I asked. Miss Ruiz, he said. Unit 2 billion, old lady, sharp as a knife. She don't like your mom either. I stared at him. Can I talk to her? Darnell nodded. I'll set it up. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. A new message from Mom. Mom, we're having a family dinner this weekend. Be normal. I read it twice. Then I smiled, slow and mean. Because she didn't know what she just gave me. A stage, a room full of witnesses she trusted, and enough rope for her to hang herself without a courtroom in sight. I typed back me, of course, I'll be good. Then I drove home with Darnell's notebook on my passenger seat like a loaded weapon. And when I stepped into the house, Kelsey looked up from the couch and said, Where were you? I kept my voice sweet. Just getting some air. Kelsey's eyes narrowed. You better not be plotting. I met her stare and smiled wider. Plotting me? Never. But in my pocket, my fingers closed around Dad's USB drive. And I promised myself one thing, quiet and hard. They were about to feel what it's like to lose control. Mom's family dinner wasn't about family, it was a stage. She spent all day cooking like she was trying to bake control back into the house. Garlic and onions hit the air so strong it made my eyes water. The oven heat turned the kitchen into a sweaty box. Mom moved around with that tight smile, the one she used when she wanted people to think we were normal. Kelsey showed up wearing a dress that looked expensive on purpose, glossy lips, little gold necklace. She kept checking her reflection in the microwave door like she was dating herself. I played my part. I set plates, I poured drinks, I laughed at the right moments. I acted like I was sorry I ever acted out. Mom kept watching me like she expected the mask to slip. Then the guests came. Aunt Janelle walked in first, Mom's older sister, sharp eyes, sharp voice. Uncle Vince came in behind her, big belly, loud laugh, the kind of guy who thinks he runs the whole room. A couple of other relatives followed, nothing huge, just enough people that Mom cared what they thought. Dad stayed in the living room, resting in his chair. He looked smaller than before, like the illness was eating space around him, but his eyes still tracked everything. Dinner started nice, too nice. Mom told stories about Dad like she was the hero. I did everything, she said, hand on her chest. I held this family together. Kelsey nodded along, chewing slow. Mom's been amazing, she added. I watched them talk about love like it was a product. Uncle Vince raised his glass. To family, he said. To family, everyone echoed. I lifted my glass too and smiled. To family, I repeated, sweet as sugar. Mom relaxed a little at that. I saw it in her shoulders. That's when the first crack happened. Kelsey's phone buzzed on the table. She snatched it fast, but not fast enough. Aunt Janelle's eyes flicked down. What's that? She asked, casual. Kelsey forced a laugh. Nothing, work. But her cheeks went pink. Mom reached for the serving spoon, voice too calm. Eat, she said. Food's getting cold. Then Kelsey's phone buzzed again. This time the screen lit up bright and stayed lit. I could read it from my seat. Realtor, offer looks strong. Want me to send the paperwork tonight? Kelsey froze with her fork halfway up. The table went quiet in that sharp way, like somebody shut a door in everyone's head. Aunt Janelle leaned back slow. Realtor, she repeated. What offer? Kelsey's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Mom. Mom's eyes flashed once. Quick, angry, warning. Kelsey tried to smile. It's nothing. Just what? Uncle Vince asked, now interested. You buying a house? Kelsey's voice cracked. No, I took a bite of food like I didn't care, chewed slow, swallowed. Then I set my fork down. Mom's voice went sharp. Can we not do this at dinner? Aunt Janelle's eyes narrowed. Do what? Ask why my niece is getting realtor offers at a grief dinner. Mom's smile got bigger, faker. It's probably spam. Kelsey laughed too loud. Yeah, spam? I looked right at Kelsey. Spam, I repeated. Then I stood up with my glass like I was about to make a toast. Mom's face brightened again. She thought this was my peace offering. I raised the glass and said, I just want to say Dad taught me something. Dad's eyes lifted toward me. Mom nodded like good. Keep it soft. I smiled. He taught me not to trust people who get excited when you're weak. The room went still. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? She asked, voice tight. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a copy of the 2019 deed. I slid it onto the table right between the plates and the gravy bowl like it belonged there. Kelsey's eyes went wide. Mom's face drained. Aunt Janelle leaned forward. What is that? I pointed at the circled name. That's the owner, I said, simple, clear. And it's not who Mom told you it was. Mom stood up hard, chair scraping. Put that away, she hissed. Right now. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice either. I stayed calm like ice. Kelsey shot up too. This is disgusting, she snapped. You're trying to ruin Mom. I turned my head slowly and looked at her. Kelsey, I said, why is your realtor texting you about an offer? Kelsey's throat worked. No words came. Mom cut in fast. Because she's helping me, she said. She's handling things because I'm overwhelmed. Aunt Janelle stared at her. Overwhelmed by what? She asked. He's still alive. Dad coughed from the living room, a dry, rough sound. Mom flinched like it annoyed her, and that little flinch told everyone everything. Uncle Vince frowned. You trying to sell the apartments? He asked. Mom's eyes darted around the table, searching for control. No, she said too fast. We were just exploring options. I nodded. Yeah, I said. Options like collecting cash from tenants so nobody can track it. Mom's eyes snapped to me like knives. You're lying. I reached down beside my chair and lifted a plain envelope onto the table. It had shaky handwriting on the front. Miss Ruiz, 2 billion. Darnell had dropped it off earlier. I didn't open it until now. I did it right there at the table, slow and neat. Inside was a folded note and a rent receipt copy. The note was short, simple. Your mother told me to pay her cash. She said it was easier. I didn't feel right. Your father always did it honest. No big speech, no extra drama, just one clean sentence that hit like a slap. Kelsey whispered, Mom. Mom's face twisted. That old woman is confused, she snapped. Aunt Janelle's voice went low. Are you serious right now? Mom looked around, desperate now, angry and scared. She's turning you against me, she said, pointing at me. She's always been jealous. She always wants attention. I smiled again, small and mean. There it is, I said softly. Same line, same trick. Kelsey's eyes darted between us like she didn't know who to protect, and that's when I knew the dinner did its job. They weren't a team anymore. They were two rats in one trap starting to bite. I raised my glass one more time and said, I'm done being quiet. Mom's voice shook. What do you want? I leaned closer and my smile disappeared. I want you to feel it, I said, the exact way you tried to make Dad feel it, small, scared, and trapped. Mom swallowed hard because she could hear it now. This wasn't a family talk. This was a countdown. After the dinner, Mom didn't sleep. I could tell because the house stayed tense all night, like the walls were listening. Every time I walked past her room, I heard her pacing, soft steps, stop, start, like she was counting ways to win. By morning, she acted sweet again. Too sweet. She handed me coffee like nothing happened. We need to talk, she said, calm. Just us? Kelsey hovered behind her in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes puffy like she'd cried in private and hated that it didn't fix anything. I took the coffee, I didn't drink it. Sure, I said. Talk. Mom led me into the kitchen, then shut the door like she was locking me in. You embarrassed me, she said quietly. In front of my sister. I nodded once. Yeah, her eyes narrowed. You did that on purpose. I leaned on the counter. You tried to sell Dad's building while he's still breathing, I said. So yeah, I did it on purpose. Mom's face hardened. You're not taking that building from me, I smiled. It's not yours. Her voice dropped lower. Then I'll make it hurt for you, she whispered. There it was, the truth, no more family, no more acting. I kept my face calm. Try, I said. Mom stepped closer. You think people will believe you, she said. You're the difficult one, the jealous one. I can tell them anything. I tilted my head. Even Dad. Mom froze for half a beat, just a half beat, but I caught it. Dad's tired, she said fast. He doesn't need this. No, I said soft. He doesn't need you. Her eyes flashed. Watch yourself. I took my coffee and walked out like I wasn't even bothered, like her threat was background noise. But I was already moving because I wasn't going to fight Mom head on. I was going to make her fight Kelsey. That afternoon, I texted Kelsey, me pull up, just you, 5 minutes. She replied almost right away. Kelsey, for what me? Because Mom's gonna throw you under the bus, and you know it. 10 minutes later, she rolled into the driveway, sunglasses on like armor. She walked in like she owned the place, but her shoulders were tight. What? She snapped. I didn't argue. I didn't beg, I just opened my laptop on the dining table and clicked play. I didn't show her the whole video, just a small part. Mom's voice, cold and clean. If she finds out, we make her look crazy. Like always. Then another line, sharper, he'll sign if we time it right. Kelsey's face went blank, like her brain had to reboot. She forced a laugh. That could be anything, she said. I paused the video and looked at her. Kels, I said, simple. If Mom can do that to Dad, what do you think she'll do to you? Kelsey swallowed. Her fingers tightened around her phone. I leaned in a little. You saw her at dinner, I said. She didn't protect you. She protected herself. Kelsey's eyes flicked away. She's my mom, and you're her shield, I said, until you're not useful. Kelsey's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes got shiny again, but these weren't her fake tears. These were fear tears. I kept going, quiet and steady. You know what she's gonna say if this blows up, I said. She's gonna say you did it, you were helping, you were handling it. You were confused. Kelsey shook her head, but weak. No, I nodded like I understood. Okay, I said, then test it. Kelsey stared. How? I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was a photo Darnell sent me that morning. It was a screenshot of a message from Mom to a lock guy. Need keys swapped fast. My daughter is in charge. Kelsey's face drained. She used my name? Yep, I said. She's already setting the story. Kelsey's hands started shaking. That's not, it's real, I said. And you know it. For a long moment she just stood there breathing hard like her chest was too small for her panic. Then she whispered, "What do you want?" I smiled a little. "Nothing," I said. "I'm just letting you see the cliff before you walk off it." Kelsey stared at the laptop again, her voice turned sharp, desperate. "So what, you want me to turn on her?" I shrugged. "You'll do what you do," I said. "You always do." "You'll protect yourself?" That line landed because it was true, and she knew I knew. Kelsey left fast after that, no big goodbye, just the sound of the front door slamming like a gunshot. That night I heard shouting in Mom's room. Not my name, Kelsey's. I stood in the hallway, quiet, listening like a ghost. Kelsey's voice cracked. "Why would you put my name in a text like that?" Mom hissed back. "Lower your voice," Kelsey said louder. "You were gonna blame me." Mom snapped. "Don't be dramatic." Kelsey laughed nasty. "Oh, now I'm dramatic." I smiled in the dark because the trap was working, and the cruel part wasn't even the building. The cruel part was this: I wasn't taking their money first, I was taking their trust, I was taking their safety. I was taking the one thing they used to sleep at night, each other. And tomorrow I was going to take it even further, because when people like them start to panic, they don't get softer, they get sloppy, and sloppy people leave prints. The next morning, Kelsey knocked on my bedroom door like she was running from a fire. "Open up," she whispered. "Right now." When I cracked it, she slipped inside fast and shut it behind her. Her hair was messy, no makeup. No cute outfit, just panic. "She's flipping on me," Kelsey said, breathing hard. "She's saying I did it. She's saying I'm the one who called the realtor." I leaned against my dresser. "Yeah," I said, "I told you." Kelsey's eyes got wet. "Real wet?" "She locked me out of her accounts," she said. "She took my card. She said if I don't fix this, I'm done." I kept my voice flat. "So fix it." Kelsey stared at me like she wanted to slap me and hug me at the same time. "How?" she snapped. "You're the one who started it." I smiled a little. "No," I said. "You started it when you tried to sell Dad's building while he was sick." Kelsey's face twisted. "I didn't save it," I cut in. "I don't need your innocence, I need your truth." Kelsey swallowed. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. I stepped closer, slow. "I want you to say it," I said, out loud to Dad with Mom in the room. Kelsey's eyes went wide. "No," I tilted my head. "You want protection," I said. "That's the price." Kelsey shook her head fast. "He can't handle that." "He can handle the truth," I said. "He can't handle you two," whispering over his body like he's already gone. Kelsey's lips trembled. She looked down at her hands. "If I do that," she whispered, "she'll ruin me." I shrugged. "She's already trying." Kelsey stood there, stuck, then she blurted, "Fine," one word, but it sounded like she just jumped off a roof. That afternoon I set it up simple. Living room, curtains open, no candles, no fake cozy, just daylight and reality. Dad sat in his chair with a blanket over his legs. His eyes were tired but sharp. Darnell stood near the doorway, quiet and solid like a wall. Aunt Janelle was there too, arms crossed, face hard as stone. Mom walked in last like she still owned the room. "What is this?" she snapped. Kelsey came in behind her, trembling. She wouldn't look at Mom. I spoke first. "Kelsey has something to say," I said. Mom laughed once. "Oh, please." Kelsey's voice came out small. "Mom, stop." Mom's smile dropped. "Excuse me?" Kelsey's hands shook so bad she had to clasp them together. She looked at Dad and her eyes filled again. "Dad," she said, voice cracking. Mom stepped forward. "Kelsey," she warned. Aunt Janelle's eyes flashed. "Let her talk." Mom's jaw tightened. "This is my house." Darnell spoke once, calm. "Not today." That made Mom freeze for half a second, like she didn't expect anyone to stand up to her in her own living room. Kelsey swallowed hard. "Dad," she said, "Mom told me to call a realtor. She told me to get offers. She told me to ask about selling the apartments." Dad didn't move, but his eyes shifted to Mom. Mom's voice turned sweet fast. "Ray, honey," she said to Dad, "she's confused, she's stressed, she's been—" Kelsey snapped louder than I'd ever heard her. "Stop lying." Mom's face went ugly. "Don't you raise your voice at me." Kelsey's chest rose and fell fast. "You were gonna blame me," she said. "You already started blaming me." Mom's eyes went cold. "Because you're weak," she said, "because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." That line hit the room like a slap. Kelsey flinched. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. "I saved it," she whispered. Mom's head jerked up. "Saved what?" Kelsey pressed a button, a voice memo played, Mom's voice filled the living room clear as day. If anything goes wrong, you say it was your idea. You hear me? I'm not taking the fall. Silence dropped so hard it felt heavy. Mom's mouth opened, nothing came out. Dad's face changed, not dramatic, just done. Like a door quietly locking from the inside, he breathed in slow, then he said rough and low, "Get out." Mom blinked. Ray, Dad's eyes stayed on hers. "Get out." Mom's voice shook now. "You don't mean that." Dad didn't raise his voice. "He didn't have to. I do." Kelsey started crying quietly like a child who just realized the monster is real. Mom turned to me, fury building. "You set this up," she hissed. I nodded. "Yeah." Mom's eyes looked wild. "You think you won? You think you—" Aunt Janelle stepped forward. "Leave," she said. "Right now." Mom's shoulders lifted like she wanted to fight, but she looked around and saw it. No backup, no stage. No audience she could charm. So she stormed down the hall, grabbed her purse, and slammed the front door so hard the picture frames rattled. Kelsey didn't follow her. She stood there shaking, staring at Dad like she wanted forgiveness she didn't deserve. Dad didn't look at her, he just stared at the TV that wasn't even on, and that was the cruelest thing, not yelling, not punishment, just being erased. Kelsey whispered, "What do I do now?" I looked at her and said, "Calm, now you find out what life feels like when Mom isn't holding you up." That night, Mom texted me one line. "You're dead to me?" I smiled at the screen because that was exactly what I wanted. Then I heard her car start, and I realized she wasn't leaving to cool off. She was leaving to do something stupid, something desperate. Something that would finally give me the last piece I needed. Mom's tires squealed out of the driveway like she was late to a fire. I didn't chase right away. I just stood in the dark listening to the engine fade, then I pulled out my phone and texted Darnell one word. Now he called me in under 10 seconds. "She's here," he said low. "At the apartments, came with a lock guy." My stomach stayed calm, my hands didn't. "Don't stop her," I said. "Let her show herself." I drove over with my headlights off the last block. The building sat there like it always did, brick, quiet trees, one porch light flickering like it was tired. But down by the front door, Mom was moving fast, arms flying, voice sharp. The lock guy stood with his tool bag open, looking uncomfortable. Miss Ruiz was in her doorway in a robe, arms crossed, face hard. 2 other tenants were out too, watching like they could smell trouble. Mom's voice carried clean through the cold air. "This is my building," she snapped. "I'm the owner." Miss Ruiz didn't move an inch. "Your husband was the owner," she said. "And he said you don't touch these doors." Mom's laugh sounded ugly. "Oh, so now the tenants run things?" I parked across the street and sat in my car, phone up, recording through the windshield. No big hero walk, no speeches. "Just proof." Mom turned to the lock guy. "Change it," she said. "Right now." The lock guy hesitated. "Ma'am, I was told." Mom shoved cash toward him. "Do your job." He took it, then looked away like he hated himself for it. Miss Ruiz raised her voice. "Darnell said no," she shouted. "And Ray said no." Mom's head snapped. "Don't say his name like you know him," she hissed. Then she said the part that finished her. "Ray's half dead and useless," Mom said loud like she wanted the world to hear it. "And that girl is a parasite. You all pay who I tell you to pay." The tenants went silent. Even the lock guy froze. My chest tightened for 1 second like my heart tried to jump out. Then it settled again. I got out of the car. Mom saw me and stiffened. Her face changed fast, anger first, then a fake calm like she could still talk her way out. "You followed me," she said. I walked up slow, hands in my pockets like I was just taking a stroll. "You broke in," I said. "I didn't break into anything," she snapped. "I'm protecting what's mine." I looked at the lock guy. "How much she pay you?" I asked. Mom barked, "Don't talk to him." The lock guy swallowed. "Cash," he muttered. "She said she owned it." I nodded. "Cool," I said. "Now you know she lied." Mom stepped toward me, eyes burning. "You think you're tough," she said. "You think you can take my life away from me." I leaned in a little. "No," I said. "I'm just letting you feel what you gave." Darnell pulled up behind me and got out, calm as ever. Aunt Janelle was with him. She didn't even look surprised. She just looked disappointed, like she finally accepted what Mom really was. Mom's face twitched. "Janelle," she said, voice sweet, "thank God you're here." "She's losing it." Aunt Janelle stared at her. "You called a lock guy," she said flat, "at night with cash." Mom's smile slipped. I had to. She's stealing from me." I raised my phone. "You want to hear yourself?" I asked. Mom's eyes widened a hair. What is that? I hit play. Her own voice came out loud in the quiet street. Ray's half dead and useless. That girl is a parasite. You all pay who I tell you to pay. Mom went pale, then red. You recorded me? She spat. Miss Ruiz nodded once, slow. Good, she said. Mom looked around like she was realizing something too late. None of these people were scared of her anymore. Darnell stepped forward. Lock work stops, he said to the guy. Right now. The lock guy grabbed his bag fast, eyes down, and walked off like he couldn't wait to disappear. Mom turned on him. Get back here, she screamed. He didn't. Mom's breathing went ragged. She looked at me, and for the first time she looked small, not weak, just cornered. What do you want? She whispered. I pulled out an envelope and held it out. Open it, I said. Her hand shook as she took it. She ripped it open like it was going to save her. Inside wasn't money, it was one paper. A simple statement already typed with a blank line at the bottom. I tried to take control of the apartments without permission. I demanded cash payments, I threatened tenants, I lied about ownership. Mom stared at it like it was poison. No, she breathed, I'm not signing that. Aunt Janelle stepped closer, voice low and hard. Then you can leave my house tonight, she said, because you're not sleeping under my roof after this. Mom snapped her head. Your house? Aunt Janelle didn't blink. Yeah, my house, the one you've been living in since you downsized last year. The one I let you stay in because I thought you were a decent human. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again, nothing came out. I watched her realize she didn't have a home, didn't have a team, didn't have a mask that worked anymore. She looked at Kelsey's name on the paper too because I put it there on purpose in the involved parties section. Not as a lie, as a mirror. Mom's lips trembled. You're evil, she whispered. I smiled, small. I learned from the best. Mom's eyes filled, but there was no pretty crying, just ruin. She grabbed the pen from Aunt Janelle's purse with shaking fingers and signed her name so hard the paper tore a little. Then she handed it back to me like she was handing over her throat. I took it and folded it slow. Good, I said. Mom stood there waiting for mercy like she still believed in it. I gave her none. Darnell turned to the tenants. From now on, he said, calm, you pay like you always did, same way, same place. If she shows up, you call me. Miss Ruiz nodded. The others nodded too. Mom looked around at the building like she wanted to hate it. Like she wanted to grab it with her hands, but she couldn't because it wasn't hers, and neither was the story anymore. She walked to her car alone, shoulders hunched, and when she drove off this time, it wasn't fast, it was slow. Like she was carrying something heavy that didn't fit in the trunk. I stood under the porch light and felt the cold on my face. Dad's building stayed quiet behind me, safe, still breathing. And in that quiet, I finally understood what revenge really is. It's not the scream, it's the silence they're left with when nobody believes them anymore.